So another Halloween video. This is one of the various devil fruits that I've kind of made. For those of you that are coming over from Teching 101 that are watching these videos after watching him and such, or like heard about me through him. First of all, hi, thank you for coming. Second of all, which is I'm sure a majority of my audience anyway at the moment. Second of all, this is going to be a video about one of the devil fruits that I designed that I sent him a bunch of perler bead art. There were a couple of them that I designed, like the chocolate fruit, the feature fruit, the brick fruit. I don't know if I'm going to do a video about a brick fruit. I probably will, but I don't know yet. And then I also did, it's brick. I made the op no me that I sent to him, the brick, the feature, the bunny fruit. I already did a bunny fruit, but that was a while ago. That was like for Easter this year. That was a while ago. So you can find that on the channel if you want. It does look like a carrot, and I mentioned that in the video. But that was before I made the perler bead art. So this video is going to be about the Tokuchō Tokuchō no mi, or the feature fruit. And I was trying to come up with a good name for it when I was like first trying to figure it out. I'm like, well, it allows you to take the features of different things, so I just figured that would work the best. It's a Paramecia type devil fruit. It's one of the ones where it's like, well, it's not a Zoan and it's not a Logia, so it has to be a Paramecia. So it's a Paramecia, obviously, and it's not a special Paramecia like Katakuri's is. The chocolate devil fruit is, but that'll be a different video, also coming out for Halloween. And I added a few other Halloween things behind me. And I have a few other extra things over here that I will explain why there are dinosaurs and a dragon. And this is a hedgehog. Porcupine hedgehog. I'll explain why those are there in a little bit. Because they deal with the devil fruit and they're going to be examples for things that I'm going to point out. So the devil fruit itself is a pointed devil fruit. That's what it looks like. Kind of based. Well, obviously it'd be bigger than this, but this is just what the perler bead art was. Rainbow fruit with, blues and pinks and such, just because I'm like, well, different colors and stuff like that. There's not that many devil fruits that have like a huge amount of like color variety in them. But I just kind of went with that one because I really liked it. So we're going to put this over here. Go there. Go by the Dia de Muertos dog. The main power of the devil fruit, summing it up, is basically it allows the user, whoever eats the devil fruit, in this case I just kind of made it the devil fruit of like kind of the mascot devil fruit for this channel, because I've always liked the idea of it, of someone having the power to like take on different, features of other things. And yes, I will be talking about Amajiki from My Hero Academia later on in the video as like an example of some of the things. And there's probably a few other people, like Rogue from X-Men, I guess, is partially also where this kind of came from, because she can like touch people and then she can take on their powers. And if she touches someone who has like a physical mutant ability, like if she touches Nightcrawler, she goes blue. And there's a few other things that go with that. So it's a little bit based on that. So I kind of like think Sun Eater and Rogue combined. Rogue with the touch setup, although Rogue touching someone puts them in a lot of pain, unfortunately. In this case, like the person who eats this devil fruit, like I'm just going to use me as an example, just because it's supposed to be like my devil fruit. Yeah, it's the main one. I was just like, I want this to be a real thing. I highly doubt it will ever be a real thing, but I kind of want this to be a real thing. Where if I ate the devil fruit and like I touched Rainy, for example, he's not in here right now because he'd mess up everything on the bed. But if I touched Rainy, for example, then I would then be able to sprout like, Samoyed hair all over me, and have, like his claws, and have a tail, and have like his ears. I don't have any headbands that have dog ears on them, so we have bunny ears for the time being. And since it's around Halloween when I'm making this anyway, later this month I might be able to get my hands on some other, cat ears, dog ears, whatever, that, for, cheap prices that I can then use as props in the videos, which might be helpful, for some things. Give or take what other videos I do. But one of the things that of course happens is, you take on those features. I will be going over like time limits and like combining of features, but first I'm just going to go over the basic setups of the fruit, for like basic things. So, other examples is obviously, you touch a rabbit, since I love rabbits and bunnies, you touch a rabbit, you can take on, you can get the rabbit's ears, you can get, like a rabbit's tail, you can get, you can get the fur all over you, you can get, like the jumping ability, like your legs, you can control what features of the animal you portray. Just like, oh, I just need like a rabbit's hearing ability for a minute. So it's, you pop on, the rabbit ears and you can like use them to hear, or, dog hearing, or like whatever animal has like the best hearing. If you've touched that animal, you can use that power. This characteristics also apply to things like you can touch objects, so you can touch different like minerals. So this is goldstone. I got this on the trip to around Nebraska. I got this at Ashfall. This is goldstone. I don't exactly know the full properties of goldstone in regards to like how hard or dense it is, but for the purposes of this, like, you touch the goldstone, and then I could, if I had the devil fruit, I touch the goldstone, and then I can materialize a layer of it over my body, and I can do the same thing with this is a tower of hematite that I don't want to get too close to the computer since it's magnetized. But yeah, this is a tower of hematite. And of course, hematite is magnetic. So it would be, you can magnetize yourself. You can, cover yourself in, magnetite and make yourself magnetic, which could be useful depending on what you need to do with it. And like this could also apply, like you touch, and I will show more examples of these later. Like you touch steel, and you can, put like a layer of steel all over your body. Your whole body does not become steel, however. Your whole body would not become, hematite. Your whole body would not become goldstone or gold or diamond or whatever it is that you touched. Your outer skin would become that feature, that material for, a certain amount of time. Or depending on how much damage you take, obviously would also affect how long the ability would last. But you can touch plants. So I brought a rose, fake rose, obviously, but roses have thorns. So, you touch a rose and then you can sprout thorns all over your body. I also have a few other pieces of artwork that my niece made for me that I'll be using those a little bit later when I show some other examples. But here's one of them. This is for like using thorns. You can like have thorns appear, depending on, the size of the plant that you touched. You can, make the thorns bigger, or kind of like, how Robin like combines her, her arms and hands and feet into like larger feet and hands and arms and legs and such. Like you can like merge thorns into like bigger thorns, and like, in the artwork here, they come out of your elbows and out of your knees. You can also like have them like come out and like, like cover your hands in thorns, and like, cover like the outsides of your hands in thorns, and then like punch people with them, to, then just, increase the damage that you can do to them. And on top of that, when it comes to plants, if the plant is poisonous, like if you touched poison ivy, like you yourself are kind of like immune to the poison ivy because you're taking on the characteristics of the plant. But if you manifest like the poison ivy, oak or bark out of you, the poison ivy plant out of you, you can then like put poison ivy on someone else. Or if it's, different types of poisonous plants, other types of poisonous plants, sometimes more deadly poisonous plants, some that are just more irritants, depending on stuff, you can then, produce that stuff for the certain amount of time that you're using that plant. You're manifesting the features of that plant. Same thing if you touch a poisonous snake or a spider or some other type of poisonous creature, because in One Piece there's other poisonous creatures than just like spiders or snakes. But you can like touch those, and you get the fangs of said animal, and you also gain like the venom sacs of that animal for the time frame that you use it. So the most poisonous snake in the world, the most venomous, strongest venomous snake in the world is the fear snake in Australia, I believe, if I remember my Steve Irwin lessons correctly. There's also the black mamba and king cobra, and there's also like the tiger snake that's in Australia. There's also the the eastern brown snake in Australia, and in the US here we have, diamondback rattlesnakes and just regular rattlesnakes, and, water moccasins and just all that types of stuff. So there's like, so many hundreds of different types of poisonous snakes all around the world. But like you would gain, those poison sacs for like the time frame that you're using that snake as, the animal that you, manifest yourself as. You do not, however, turn into the animal. And so it's not a Zoan in the fact that you don't turn into an animal, and you can't touch water and then take on like the physical properties of water. So I was trying to figure out where I can set the boundaries for, like, obviously the boundaries with animals, I set it at it. You cannot do this with any human or human-like creatures. So, i.e., no giants, no dwarves, no long arms, long legs, snake necks, minks, fishmen, and mermaids. Does not apply to those. It would also not apply to like Onis, like whatever the ancient giants, or ogre giants, whatever type things that like Yamato and Kaido are, and possibly Black Maria. It does not apply to those. You cannot like touch Kaido and then like gain horns like Kaido has, or touch a dwarf and then gain like like the dwarves have the tail and gain like the physical strengths of a dwarf. You can't touch a long arm and gain long arms. You can't touch long leg and gain long legs. You can't do that. It doesn't apply to that. It does not apply to those because those are not animals. Technically, yes, by definition, a human is a type of animal, but for the purposes of the devil fruit, I had to set one of the boundaries somewhere for that. So that's that. In regards to like materials, obviously this applies to organic materials. Obviously, I mean, steel itself is not organic, but hematite is, because hematite comes out of the ground. Same thing with goldstone. Same thing with like if you find diamonds and you touch diamonds, you can use them. You can materialize that, like a layer of diamond all over your body. Same thing, like very similar, like what Jozu does. Those former one of the commanders of the Whitebeard pirates, he can form diamonds because he has like the glitter fruit. He can like form diamonds all over his body. So it'd be similar to that. Probably not as too great of an effect as he has, but still similar to that idea. Same thing with you touch gold. Guild Tesoro makes like the gold armor for his people. In this case, you touch gold or any type of because there's berries all over the place in One Piece, and they're in Wano right now, and there's gold and stuff in Wano. You touch that, and you can take on that physical capabilities. You can cover your arms or your legs or whatever in gold. And admittedly, if you have like hockey, then you can just like put the hockey on top of that. Like I have diamond and then I have hockey over the top of the diamond, so it's like even if the hockey breaks, there's still the diamond there, or vice versa. Or you can trick someone and do hockey on the bottom and then do like diamond over the top of the hockey, and then like punch them with the diamond fist, and it's like, oh, this isn't gonna hurt me. Ow! And it hurts even more because you have hockey underneath it, backing it up. That would take training to do, obviously. But you would have to get used to that, of course. And you could this obviously would not work with sea prism stone. You could not touch sea prism stone and then materialize sea prism stone all over your body, because then you basically just like nullify yourself. That wouldn't work. So you can't like copy sea prism stone, which makes sense. Devil fruit user weak to sea prism stone. And then in regards to downsides of different features, they only last for a certain amount of time depending on how many features you are using from different sources. As I mentioned, it is not a Zoan because you do not turn into the animal the animal or insect or whatever that you take the features from, and it's not a Logia in the fact that you do not fully become any element. You can't touch fire and then be able to turn into fire, be able to manifest fire. That doesn't work. It's not one of those various like dime a dozen heat type devil fruits. But you could touch sand. I mean, admittedly, it's not really going to be a super useful thing, but you can like touch sand and like you can manifest like sand on you. You could, however, not touch. I was like, there's hard limits that I got to figure out where that lands for certain things, but it's like Mochi, you know, Katakuri's devil fruit is the mochi devil fruit. You can't. I was trying to figure out if like you could like touch mochi and then like produce mochi, you know, like a layer of mochi all over yourself. It's not like you can produce mochi the way that Katakuri produces mochi. It's not like you can just like endless supply of mochi. You can't do that, or like an endless supply of sand. It's only like a certain amount of the material that you can reproduce. So like you probably wouldn't be able to copy mochi. You wouldn't be able to do that. And like you couldn't like Mr. You know, the wax no me, you know, that Mr. 3 has. You know, you probably wouldn't be able to, you know, you could like copy the wax and have like a layer of wax all over you, but you wouldn't be able to produce it the way that he does, because that's his ability, is to produce it, is to create it. Your ability is just to copy it. So you'd just be able to have like a layer of wax all over you, which admittedly, depending on what you're going to be doing, say I have to go fight Magellan, I'm going to cover myself in wax, and then as soon as I get away from the poison, break the wax off and run away. You know, there's that possibility. But, you know, there's not super ability of like, oh, I've got wax and I need to, you know, cover myself in wax. It doesn't really work that way. The limits into regards of what actually this applies to in regards to how you get this ability. Obviously, you eat the devil fruit. That's the basic thing of like, oh, I eat this devil fruit. I know what it's called. I can touch different animals and I can take on their characteristics. I can touch different, you know, organic materials or so and take on their characteristics. Like, you know, you touch wood, you know, you touch like a tree and you can produce like bark all over your body. And I'm going to give some examples here. In regards to this, for the examples I was going to do for like different things, for the different features. So first off, you touch an animal, you know, you gain its fur, hair, tail, ears, you know, claws, different things like that. You also gain, like, you know, as I mentioned, with like you touch a dog or a rabbit or a cat or something like that, and you can gain the hearing ability of that animal. So really, you know, if you want to do espionage type of a thing, you want to go and find like the animals that have like the best hearing ability. In regards to being in the One Piece world, you could, by technicality, touch a Denden Mushi and then, you know, link yourself in with the telepathic network for a certain amount of time, because you can reproduce that part of the, you know, Denden Mushi. You would not necessarily be able to stay a part of the system for an extremely long amount of time, but for like a short amount of time, you would be okay. It's like, you know, oh, I need to send a communication back to, like, you work for the Revolutionary Army. It's like, oh, I need to send a communication back to headquarters. You know, if you've touched, you know, like the black Denden Mushi that allows you to, you know, eavesdrop on stuff, and you've touched like the white Denden Mushi at some point in the past that allows you to prevent that. And then you've touched, like, you know, like there was that brown signal jamming one that like Beijing had in Totland that he used for part of the plan. Like, if you like touched one of those, and then you touch, you know, like a regular Denden Mushi, you by technicality now are, you know, this like perfect little communication hub for certain amounts of time. As I said, I do have time limits for certain things, but it's, you know, it depends on how many, you know, things you're using from different sources. So I'm just going to go over some single source uses first. So first off, we have Bunny one, because of course Bunny is me. Duh. We have another piece of artwork from my niece, where she drew me. I know that it just kind of looks like I have hairy arms in the artwork. I told her a little bit after she sent me this. I'm like, okay, so it would look more like where I would just have like fur covering me, not just like, oh, I'm hairy. So yeah, but I still told her I would use the artwork. So we have that. We also have like a dog version of me as well, you know, because rainy. So we have those. But the other ones that I did want to point out is, of course, and I'm going to use some examples from both One Piece and My Hero here, because we do have a few variations in, you know, My Hero in regards to quirks that people already have that are similar to what like this would look like being applied to someone. So first off, in regards to the hearing ability, we have Cirrus, who is the sidekick to Selkie. She's, you know, one of Sue's friends and such. I went over her in some of the internship videos, of course. And she is, you know, her ability is called, you know, good ear or good hearing or something like that. And she has this like sonar type ability that allows her to, you know, hear things for quite a long distance away. And, so she has that ability. So say, oh, I need to have like a sonar ability. You touch a whale or a dolphin or something along those lines that has like that type of sonar ability, or a bat that has that type of sonar ability, and then you can reproduce that within a certain time frame for a certain amount of time. The thing, and where I put this is, once you've copied something once, you have that ability. You have the ability to call upon that at any time, as long as you haven't like worn yourself out, type of thing. So it's like with Mr. 2 and the Mane Mane. He can copy however many faces he wants, and then use those copies as many times as he needs. He does not have. I don't think he had a limit for how many he can copy at any given time. I don't think there was a limit. If there was a limit, I apologize, but I don't remember there being a limit on that for how many he can copy. But, so we have that. You can copy as many abilities as you want, as many features of these animals, copy, like you're basically copying their genetics and then kind of not splicing it with yours, but just kind of like combining it to a degree, like kind of adding it on top of yours, enhancing yourself with them. In regards to, like rabbit legs, I was going to use like Mirko as an example because she has, this amazing jumping ability of a rabbit. And that's, a lot of her quirk is in her legs, of course. So, she can jump, and she can, jump around really, really quickly and really, really hard. She can, she's got really strong kicks and such like that. Admittedly, she's obviously put a lot of training into this. So, the character, whoever would have the devil fruit would probably want to do a fair amount of like training in, different types of martial arts and stuff like that. And then they can then apply that to using, oh, I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of kicking and jabbing and stuff like that during this thing, and jumping around and stuff like that during this fight, or while I'm in this area. Therefore, I should probably manifest like rabbit legs while I'm here. And then you have like those jumping ability, and you can use that, and then you train up your muscles more, and you can do even more jumping ability, kind of the way that Mirko did. I mentioned you touch a bird, and it does adjust to the proportion of you. So it's like you touch like a rabbit, and like it'll adjust to like your legs would then be able to like have like a human-sized version of rabbit legs. Hence why I said, Mirko is a good example of this. The same thing with birds. You touch a bird, you probably want to go with, depending on like, if you want one that can fly really, really fast, maybe you want a hummingbird. If you want one that can fly really, really far, has really good wing endurance, then maybe something like an eagle or an albatross. So like touch one of the news coos. And then you can like have like the news coos wings, because they fly really, really far, as we've learned. So you would have that ability. So I have hawks here showing off that, you can have like the wings manifest out of your back, and fly that way. You could also like manifest them as your arms too, if you wanted to. You can kind of control a little bit of that. But like, yeah, you can like manifest the wings out of your back. And then I was going to use Ryuku as an example in regards to like touching a dragon. Like if you touched one of the dragons on Punk Hazard, the big red one, or the greener, the green one, if you touched one of them, or if you found the bones of a real dragon, because this also applies to you touch the bones of something as well. Like, oh, well, this animal is extinct now in the One Piece world, but we still have bones from it that like they were worshipped by some cultures. So we have bones from it. You just like go and touch the bones of the animal, then you can then manifest the traits of that animal. There's also like, you touch a sea king, you could technically manifest the things of a sea king. Like, oh, I need gills, touch sea king, have gills, have ability to breathe water. But I'll be getting to that. I'll be getting to that when I get to like the fish setup for things. But you touch, like if you touched a dragon, like if you touched the green one or the red one, or if you touched Kaido in his dragon form, or Momo in his dragon form, well, maybe not Momo because he's artificial, but you touch like Kaido when he's in his dragon form, or something from Kaido from when he was in his dragon form. Don't exactly know how that would apply. Like Kaido had to have his toenails clipped in his dragon form, so now there's like toenail shreds all over the place. So you can like touch one of those. No. You touch Kaido in his dragon form. Somehow you touch Kaido in his dragon form. And then, because like Ryuku, obviously she can change into the size of a dragon. But we also see that she gets like the dragon's claws and the scales all over her as well, and the wings. So you touch the red dragon on Punk Hazard, and you can manifest like that dragon's wings out of you. You can manifest. You can't manifest the ability to breathe fire. It does not let you do that. The feature fruit does not let you do that. You cannot manifest like touch Kaido. You can't have the Borrow Breath. You can't have the wind sight blades. You can't have that type of stuff. You can't manifest fire. You can't do that. But you can physically change, cover yourself in like dragon scales and have claws. You would not have the flame clouds if you touched Kaido, because that's part of the mythical versions of this stuff. It doesn't quite apply that far to this, because that would be a little bit too over the top, I would say. But you touch like the dragons at Punk Hazard or something, and you're then able to, cover yourself in dragon scales and have wings and have the claws and have like the teeth of a dragon, because your mouth will kind of like shape a little bit more to that. So there's that. You have, in regards to, you can technically mimic a mink or a Zoan hybrid, depending on how far you go with this. For example, you cannot touch a mink and then gain the ability to look like said mink. It's not like you can like touch carrot. They're like, no, I have the ability to be a rabbit mink now. No, you don't have that ability. You can't do that because the minks are on the level of the human type things. You can't copy those. You cannot copy them. But when it comes to, if you've touched like a rabbit itself, you can then, put the rabbit fur all over your body, the ears, and have the tail and, the jumping ability of a rabbit and such. And you can at least kind of pass for a mink, which, say you're a mink say you're someone that has to hide on, Zunisha for a while, hide on the country of Zo for a while, and you're a friend of the minks. And, someone comes around who's not a mink and you're not sure if they're trustworthy or not. And they tell you, okay, just, pretend to be a mink for a while. And you just do that. You like manifest, the fur of whatever it is you need to hide as. And then pretend to be that for a while. You cannot access Electro, obviously, because you're not actually a mink. But you at least have the ability to like pass for a mink for a while. And in regard to this, you can also kind of pass for a Zoan hybrid for some of this stuff as well. So if you, we haven't seen a bunny Zoan in the series, unfortunately. We've seen carrot, but we have not seen a bunny Zoan, which is where the bunny devil fruit that I designed came in. But if what you do is the world government is, it's like, oh, I used this ability in this spot. Like if you're a thief, this would be kind of technically an interesting feat for Nami to have, being a thief. Like, oh, well, I was pretending like to portray like a cat burglar in this area, but I need to pretend to be something else for like a different Zoan hybrid in a different area. So, oh, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to be, like cover my, get snake scales all over me and pretend to be like a snake hybrid instead, or pretend to be, like touch a deer, and like you could touch Chopper in his regular form, not, technically his form point, but his regular form where he's not, using his devil fruit powers at all, where it's just like his bigger regular form. And you could touch that, and you could then gain the ability to, have, antlers like what Chopper does, and have, like his ability, his hearing and smell ability, and like manifest like the reindeer fur all over you to keep you warm if you have to go into a cold area. And you could do it that way. So you could kind of end up looking a little bit like Milky from the mink tribe. Milky is adorable. And then, of course, if you touch, you touch like a canine, because you can kind of copy a little bit like what Wanda looks like, where, like you copy Rainy, or you copy another type of a dog or a fox or a wolf or something like that. And you can, get like the snout of a wolf and, like the fur and the claws and the tail and the ears and such. And you can kind of mimic that for a while. So we'd have that. You can kind of mimic Carrot a little bit as well. You could, find a leopard. I guess technically the easiest way of doing that is either find an actual leopard, or somehow find Rob Lucci when he's in his leopard form and just say, hi, can I touch you? Which probably is not the best idea. But like, Maybe he's in a very good mood that day. Maybe he's like just like in like a decent, happy mood that day. You know, nothing is going wrong. His pigeon is fine. He looks nice. He's like, why do you want to touch me? I just want you to turn into your full leopard form, and I want to touch you, just because I've always wanted to touch a leopard, and you know, you're the closest thing I found. You know, and like he's just like, whoa, okay, and he like changes into the full leopard form, and you just like touch him, like you like maybe pet him a little bit, and then you like go, okay, thank you, and you like leave. Um, and Lucci like just shrugs. Like Kaku was like, why did you let her do that? Lucci, I don't know. I don't know. I'm in a good mood. Don't test me, giraffe boy. Um, Inversely, if you found Kaku and he was in his giraffe form and you touched him in that form, then you could then, you know, there's not, you know, it's like you wouldn't get like a long neck of a giraffe. Well, by technicality, I guess you would kind of get the long neck of a giraffe, but you would be able to, you know, like be like spotted like a giraffe and have like the horns like a giraffe. And, you know, giraffes do have, they have like, you know, they do have the ability to run rather okay and such like that. So you could like, but like, you know, it's like your hands would like turn into hooves if you use that type of a thing, depending on like how far, you know, because you can like control how far up and down. Like a full version of like combining with the animal would basically make you look like a mink or a Zoan hybrid. Whereas like just like different levels of like, oh, I only need like the claws of this animal, or I only need the fur of this animal for a certain time frame, or moving on to a good example, oh, I need to fly, you know, so you know you manifest the wings of the bird or whatever, or a bat. If you've like touched a bat, you can do it that way. The other side of that is, you know, you can do insects and stuff like that. You know, you touch an insect, you know, like a butterfly, because I like butterflies. You can, you know, touch a butterfly and you like, you know, butterfly wings that are, you know, human-sized, you know, you-sized butterfly wings. So like if a giant had this devil fruit, you know, they would have like huge butterfly wings coming off of them, which, depending on the giant, would be kind of cool. Like if it was Gerd from the new Giant Warrior Pirates, that would be very pretty. If it was Hyrudine with giant butterfly wings coming out of its back, I don't know. That would be a very interesting concept to discuss. Hyrudine with butterfly wings. Discuss. But there's, you know, a few other things that goes along with that. Like, you know, again, you know, you touch a spider, you can, you know, gain the fangs. You can touch, well, if you touch a spider, you would technically gain their ability to produce, like, the spider's thread and stuff like that. Although you probably wouldn't want to know where the thread was coming from. You know, you touch, you know, you can gain like the pincers, like you touch a praying mantis and you can kind of have like praying mantis type, you know, like the claws that like that they have. You know, ants, you know, you can get like the mandibles, different things like that. You know, you have like their grips, you know, their grip strength as well. You know, you can mimic that. You know, you touch a crocodile and you can have like the bite force of a crocodile, or like the bite force of a great white shark. If you touched a great white shark, you can have, you know, that bite force of them. You know, plus like their sensory ability and such like that, which moves into the fish category if you touched a fish. You would not be able to swim. You would still not be able to swim because it's still a devil fruit, so you'd still sink if you're in water. But you would be able to kind of mimic yourself to look like a fishman. You could not look like a mermaid because that would involve you, well, no, you wouldn't be able to look like a mermaid. You look more like a fishman. And we have seen female fishmen, so we know that those are possible. Fish women, I guess, would be the setup for that. But like you would be able to manifest that stuff. Like you could manifest gills from a fish, the scales from a fish. You know, like as I said, the shark, you know, if you manifest, you know, yourself as, you know, the abilities of a shark, you know, you can have like, you know, the teeth and the, you know, the bite force of a shark. And, you know, you kind of, you know, can manipulate yourself to where you can have like the lung capacity of, you know, different animals, or like the lung, well, you touch a whale, you wouldn't gain huge lungs like a whale has, obviously, but you would be able to like withstand, you know, large amounts of pressure from being underwater. Same thing with like different types of fish. You can maintain like different types of, you know, withstand different types of, water pressure that normal humans would not be able to withstand. Or Luffy, or insert any member of kind of Straw Hats at this point in time, wouldn't be able to withstand this type of pressure. You'd still be underwater, but if you manifest the gills of, a fish, you could breathe underwater for a certain amount of time. And, you could kind of pass as like a fishman. If you're, pass as a fishman to a degree, you wouldn't be able to communicate with the fish, but you could, still have like that type of ability. Also, sharks have this amazing, sensory network that goes with them. I think it's called the ampullae of Lorenzini. It's like on their snout and everything. There's like all these different like sensory, cells all over their snout and everything that allows them to sense so much stuff all around them. So you would have the ability to do that if you've touched a great white shark. Or those also apply to lots of other types of shark have them as well. Again, you wouldn't be able to swim. You would still sink, but you could pull like what Jack had, like what happened with Jack from the Beast Pirates when his ship got knocked over by Zunisha. He kind of floated to the bottom of the ocean, and because he's a fisherman, he could still breathe underwater, and he could still, catch fish and eat that way until he was found. So that worked well there. Whereas, if this happened to you and you got, you have touched a fish or something like that, you can, manifest the gills of a fish and you can breathe underwater while you wait for your crew or your friends to find you. Such like that. As I said, you touch like a tree or a bush and gain, bark skin or thorns or, you can, like, if you touch a flower, like if you touch flowers, like as I said, you touch a rose, you can, make like flowers, like roses like grow out of you, which, depending on certain circumstances, if you need to hide somewhere, it's like, well, there's a rose bush, just like cover yourself in like roses and thorns and like hide in the bush. That would be helpful. No, I'm a rose bush. just like hide that way. That'd be a fun way to hide. And because you can, cover your skin and such, you wouldn't necessarily have to worry about getting poked by the bushes. You could also do that. It's like, like hide as like part of a tree or something like that. Cover yourself wholly in bark and like make leaves grow out of your fingers and like hide as part of a tree. So, you can kind of pull off like a Kamui Woods. I'm going to throw that in here as well. For that from, My Hero, it's that you can't like, he can make like whole, like, trees and stuff like that almost like grow out of him. Branches and stuff like that grow out of him. You wouldn't be able to do that. But you would at least be able to like cover yourself in bark and maybe produce, the thorns or, you could produce fruit by technicality. If you touch like an apple tree or something like that, you could produce, like a couple of apples. Admittedly, like you eating the apples would be kind of an inverse problem because it's like you're eating something that you just spent energy to make. So it doesn't quite work like that. Like with Kanjuro and his, as horrible as a person as he is, he draws lettuce and you can eat the lettuce. It tastes horrible. It tastes like ink. But it's one way to survive. But, so you can do that. For example, it's like if you touch steel, I have Tetsu here, Tetsu, real steel, from class 1B in My Hero Academia. We have him, he, you can manifest steel all over your body. And it wouldn't make you as fireproof as he is, but it would make you be able to withstand heat a little bit better. You could also like, touch clay and manifest clay all over your body. Again, depending on what you're doing, that could be very helpful. It would depend on certain circumstances. It would also depend on like what line of work you're in. Like if you're a pirate or a thief or even a bounty hunter, then a lot of these abilities would be very useful to you. It's like, oh, I need to hide this, I need to do this, I need to hide this. Oh, I'm an assassin, I need to assassinate this person, or whatever the case may be. Then you can do that. And like with the diamonds, if you, turn like the outside of your skin into, steel or whatever the frick Zoro's swords are made out of, and then you can like coat your hand in, hockey as well, armament hockey, and, use that as an even stronger weapon. Or your legs and do that, like, I'm going to go over combining stuff in a minute, but first we have those. And then like you can, take fabric. This is where I was a little unsure, like, because fabric technically is not a natural thing. I mean, like, cotton is a natural thing, and so is wool, because, you know, sheep produce wool and stuff like that. So those are a natural thing. But them, you know, woven together and like turned into like clothes or stuff like that isn't really natural. So, but I was just like, steel is not a natural thing because you have to make it and forge it. So you could touch like velvet, and then like you could, you know, produce velvet all over your skin and have it be very, very soft. Why that would necessarily be a useful thing to have, I'm not sure. But like, I guess if like, I guess the example I could come up for why that would be a useful thing, the ears are going to come off now because they're getting a little annoying. But like, for if you wanted to, like, oh, if you're going to be stealing something that, you know, you don't want to scratch it at all, and, you know, you can like, you know, cover your whole hand in like velvet and gently pick up whatever item it is that you're stealing. Or, you know, oh, I need to, you know, I know there's like other ways of doing that. But it's like, that was like the best thing that I could come up with. Like, or, you know, cover your, you know, make your, you know, cover your hands in like silk or something like that and have it be extremely soft that way. Silk is like a natural, you know, occurring thing, but, you know, so that type of thing. You know, it doesn't do much for fabric. It can, but it's not super useful. And then I was going to list, in regards to, I was going to mention there are time limits on things for like combining things. So, time limits. One source can last for almost a whole day, as in I copy something from, you know, this is a, you know, hedgehog porcupine type thing. I don't remember where I got this, but I wanted it, so I bought it. But it like sheds glitter everywhere. But like, you know, oh, I touched this hedgehog porcupine type thing, and now I can produce like, you know, like the spines out of my back. You know, I can, you know, produce those, have like their smell, you know, their smelling ability, or like, you know, roll into a ball and, you know, use that as like an armored defense type of a thing. You know, coat myself in hockey and use it that way. I can make that, you know, armored ability, or like the you know, have that power, like copy an armadillo and do the same thing. I can do that, and I can do that for like almost an entire day. Like, I could walk around as like a quote unquote porcupine hybrid for an entire day almost. And, you know, without, you know, this is also without like fighting, you know, exerting yourself in any other ways, you know, being at full health. With training, you can also, you know, prolong how long you can last that way. But this would be like someone who's like had it for a while and, you know, has at least mastered some of that. Two sources, aka combining, oh, I need like the legs of a rabbit, and I need to be able to hit things extremely hard. So you can always do the legs of a rabbit and then, you know, cover them in hockey. So that's one thing. But that's not combining two elements of the fruit. You can take the elements of, you know, I need to do a lot of damage to someone while I'm kicking them, and just being able to kick them isn't going to do that. So, you know, have your rabbit legs, or, you know, kangaroo legs. I've been using rabbits a lot. I'll use kangaroo instead. Have like kangaroo legs, and, you know, legs and tail and such. And, you know, like a big red kangaroo, because like they've got claws on their feet. Of like, you know, kangaroo, you know, red kangaroo, like legs and claws and such, like that way manifest. So you've got really good kicking and jumping ability, and have like the tail there to help with that, kind of like Ojiro from Class 1A. You have that, but you want to add more damage to it. So you can like manifest thorns all over it, or manifest, you know, steel or diamond or something like that all over it, to then increase that hitting ability, that force that you could release from it, you know, the impact force that would come from it and cause more damage to whoever it is that you're fighting. And then if you have hockey, then you can, you know, add hockey on top of that. Hockey always, because like hockey does take a fair amount of, you know, effort and, you know, endurance and such like that, you know, stamina. You'd want to get the other things down first and then work on adding hockey on top of that. And like combining two things lasts for about 3/4 of a day. Combining three sources, so say having, you know, building on top of things, oh, I've got, I've got like the really good jumping ability from like the kangaroo legs and tail. The kangaroo legs and tail qualify just from one source because they are from one source. If you have like the legs and tail of the kangaroo, you got it covered in, thorns to just add more power to that, to add more, ability to kick and stuff like that, more ability to cause damage. And if it's, thorns from like a poisonous plant, then that just increases the damage that you're doing to whoever it is that you're hitting or kicking. And then like, oh, but I don't want to be, but I need something else too. Like, my hands also need to be something as well. Kangaroos do kind of have like little blunt claws on their hands, but they're not super useful. So you can manifest, oh, but I also need to be able to like punch this person as well, or punch someone else or something like that. So you can always manifest, like another type of animal, claws set if you don't have something, I was trying to think of like animals that, like you can manifest like the claws, like I've got dinosaurs sitting back here, so we'll talk about a dinosaur for a second. So, if you found King in his regular form outside of his gimp suit, you could, touch him as, when he's in his pteranodon form and, like, copy that. You could find Queen and copy her in her. Queen is not a she. Find Queen and copy him in his, brachiosaur form. And, you can do that. You can find, page 1, copy him in his Spinosaurus form. Ulti, copy her in her, Pachycephalosaurus form. Find all the other members of the Tobiropo and, the Calamities and just like, hi, can I touch you for like a minute? When you're in your big dinosaur or giant cat or giant spider, I wouldn't want to be near Black Maria, or giant, whatever dinosaur cat mammoth form thing that you have. Can I just like touch you while you're in that? Why? Bao Wang told me to. The Kaido's secretary. And just like do that. And just like, sure. Changes in the thing. Touch. Okay, thank you. Bye. Just like somehow this person has great ability to just like talk their way into any situation. Hi, yeah. Can you turn into your giant, animal form so I can touch you? Why? Science experiment. Okay. Just like do that. And like do that, like change that way. And like just somehow like gain that. Or just go to like Little Garden at the beginning of the Grand Line and just like touch all the dinosaurs that are there and then just like copy it that way. Copy those that way. Do that. Or well, by technicality, I know Strong World itself is technically not canon, but like you could go to like where like all of those animals were in that area and like touch stuff from them and just be like, oh, this is great. Just like run all over the place and like touch them. Even the dead ones, you can like touch them and like copy them. And just have like this whole new arsenal of things that you can use. Obviously you wouldn't go to the size of said animals, but you could, oh, I need to have like the claws of a giant freaking tiger. So like, combine the claws of the tiger with like, the kangaroo leg could have the thorns all over them. And then have like the giant paws of a tiger. And like you can like slash at things or stuff like that. So that's 3 things. And 3 things combined from 3 different sources lasts about a day. Or about half a day, about half a day. 4 sources, insert whatever else thing that you need to combine into that. Oh, I need this amazing hearing ability of whatever animal, add that on top of that. Things from 4 sources lasts about 6 hours. Obviously, the more sources you're using, the faster you're going to run out of energy. Having it from 5 sources, so just, add on whatever other thing you need, lasts about 3 hours. 6, which is usually from 6 different sources at the same time, is about the max that I kind of put for what this fruit can copy and like show and manifest at the same time. Is about 6, and that lasts for about an hour. Throw hockey on top of that if you're like covering those different, like covering the thorns all over in hockey, or your legs or your claws in hockey, and you're using all of that at the same time. Adding hockey in there would actually lessen the time even more, depending on how strong of hockey you have and how much training you have with it. So it's like it's Goofy. With Luffy, not Goofy. This is not a Disney video. With Luffy and his, his, bound man, like all these other forms that he has, he can only be in them for so much amount of time before he runs out of his Haki, and then he's out of Haki for a while and he has to recharge. In this case, it would be very similar to that. And like, you might run yourself down and you might not be like, like fainted or like useless the way that Luffy is, but you can't really like manifest anything else for a while. So usually the best way would be to like only manifest up to like 4 or 5 things at the same time from 4 or 5 different sources. And yeah, you can combine things like, cover the thorns or whatever, the claws, and like you found a chunk of vibranium in the One Piece world. You found this giant chunk of vibranium somehow. And you're like, well, this is a really cool metal. Touch. Now I have vibranium claws. Or like cover your legs in vibranium or something like that. Vibranium versus Haki. I don't know which would be better, because Haki is your willpower and it would depend on the willpower of whoever is using it. But like Haki versus vibranium seems like an interesting concept if you ask me. But like, so 4 or 5 would probably be about like the max of what you would want to do unless you're in like dire straits. And then like save like one more feature so that way, I'm gonna lose this fight and I need to escape, or like, oh, we completed our thing and like I need to escape, so just like turn off everything else, activate giant wings, and then just fly the heck out of there as fast as you can. So like save one more feature in case you need to do that. And of course, once you're back at full health and re-energized, and it kind of starts all over again. You can adjust stuff, and obviously most of the time you're not going to walk around all day long, like with like rabbit ears and like stuff all over the place all the time. But you would practice with it a lot. Practice, stretching the limits of how long you can make the different features last, combining them together, different combinations that work really well for you, stuff like that. That would be something that would have to go in with like practicing with the fruit. Because Luffy's practiced so much with his Gomu Gomu no Mi. Different characters obviously that have their devil fruits have done a lot of practicing with them. The longer you've had the devil fruit, the longer you've had to get used to using the power. And in this case, for the feature no Mi, you would just get, you would also like gain more things of what you can turn into, of what you can, use. Touch porcupine, touch pumpkin. Pumpkin wouldn't necessarily be super useful, but I guess like you can, manifest like, like the rind, the gourd shell of a pumpkin all over your body, and like, fun Halloween costume. But touch shark, touch dragon, touch dinosaur, touch bat, touch cat, touch dog, touch, horses, whatever. And then you just get like a horse, like horses are really good for like running long distances. So, manifest like a horse's legs, and then like you can run for a really long distance of time. And you'll kind of feel some of it when you change back into your normal form, but since you were using the muscles of said animal at that time, it doesn't really cause you like adverse damage. It does not make you, like if you like touch a snake, it doesn't necessarily make you immune to their poison, so you probably won't want to get bit anyway, but do it that way. And I was going to point out the main uses that the Animanda that the character uses it for. I have another art piece here that my niece drew of my character, of me as that character. She put in the blue hair at the time, so we have that. And I gave myself one of my own shirts just because I could. So we have that. Some of the main features that she likes to manifest are obviously like the bunny ears and such. She likes to manifest, like butterfly wings. I'm going to get my niece to draw something with that as well. It's like a dog ear, dog tail, cat's ears at times, thorns for defense, different things like that she would be able to manifest. And she, combines them in different areas as well. I was trying to think of like if you touched a chameleon, yeah, you could like mimic like their tongue or like their eyes, or you can look one way and one way with like one eye looking one way and one eye looking the other way with like a chameleon. But I don't know if you would be able to like quote unquote color change the way a chameleon can. You probably would be able to if you touched a chameleon, but chameleons don't like, they can't like automatically always like mimic everything that's behind them. But there are octopuses, octopi, whatever, that they do mimic exactly what is behind them. And like if you touched one of those, you know, if like the devil fruit user touched one of those octopuses, yeah, you could have like, you know, the suction cups all over the place. But you would also be able to, you know, like, oh, I need to hide, and you can like go and like stand in front of a wall and like just look like you look exactly like the wall and such like that. So I kind of think like, I'll throw this out there just because. Okay, think Randall from Monsters Inc. I don't like Randall, but he's a good example of that. And then I will point this out here because someone pointed it out, and it's true, and it's probably where some of the idea for this came from, is Tamaki Amajiki, or Sun Eater from My Hero Academia. Obviously, his quirk is called Manifest, and his quirk is very similar to this, but his requirement is that he has to have eaten it, and it only lasts for a certain amount of time. As in, like, he can eat it, and I think it's for the amount of time that it's, like, in his, you know, digestive system that he's allowed to manifest that type of an animal type of a thing. Because, like, we see him eat, you know, he likes to eat, you know, calamari because he eats, you know, he uses, like, the squid and the octopus arms a lot. And we see that a lot. He eats chicken, so he always gets wings a lot of the time. And he gets, like, you know, the chicken claws on his feet, which is a really good thing. He eats clams, so you can, you know, have, like, the clams that he can, you know, produce out of that. You know, produce out of his hands. And we also see it that he does have the ability to also eat kind of inorganic type material that's not like an animal type material, because like when he's fighting the Hasaikai, he does end up eating some of like one of the guys can like produce like this crystal type stuff. And, you know, Amajiki eats some of that, and then he can then reproduce that, and he combines that with his regular stuff, with his regular, you know, skills and what he already has in his arsenal, and he uses that. We also see him eat like swordfish at some point, and he makes like a giant swordfish swordfish head pop out of his arm. So Amajiki has to physically eat the item, eat the piece of the animal or so, although he is able to also produce you know, like stuff from like seeds and vines and stuff like that, but they're not as high quality, I don't think. So that still kind of applies for like the devil fruit as well, as, you know, it's like, well, I can produce thorns, and by technicality, I could be able to, you know, like if I touch an apple tree or something, I would be able to produce like, you know, some apples, but it would be using my own, you know, my own stamina to do so. And if you're in a place where you have plenty of food anyway, then that's not really an issue. But if you're like in an area where you need to conserve food, then not really that good of an idea. To like, oh, I need to put like a bunch of energy into producing apples so I can then eat the apples and then have more energy. But it's kind of like an inverse cycle of like, that's not really going to work because you're actually taking in less than you're putting out. Whereas Amajiki's is like, you know, within a certain time frame after he eats the fruit, after he eats the food, that he can use it. So I do love Amajiki. He's adorable. He's fun, and he's gonna have fun things to do. I talked about him in the internship things when I was talking about you know, the fat gum stuff, when I was talking about that, with where he is with that for the different internships for the My Hero video. So yeah, you know, like you would be able to, like, you know, like if you touch the T-Rex, you would be able to like have like, you know, like you know, they do have claws on their hands, but they also have like, you know, claws on their feet, and they have, you know, like they have, of course, you know, the very, very sharp teeth and such like that. So you could have that, and you know, you would be able to have like like if you touched like a Ankylosaurus, which is one of like the huge armor stuff on its back, and like, you know, like the armor on its tail, like takes like whap around and stuff like that, and like, you know, Stegosaurus has like the same type of a thing, or, you know, like the spines, like you can, you know, produce that out of your back, like the spines out of your back, and like the spines on, you know, like grow a tail and like produce the spines for that. So this person, you know, if Animanda, you know, had this, she might be something Kaido would be like, find me this person. I want this person on my crew. Because she can just like shift from one thing to the next type of a thing. And then just like have all of the, have like all of the ones that like have, you know, have her touch all of the Tobi Roppo, and have her touch, you know, Kaido himself, so she can like have like his claws, and like not really his flying ability, but like his claws and his scales and his, you know, teeth, and then like have her like touch all of the Tobi Roppo and the Calamities, and, you know, anybody else that actually has a actual Zoan type devil fruit, because by the time, well, you tell me, comments, whatever, should the ability also be able to apply to the artificial zone users, the smile users? Should it be able to apply to Momo? where like if she touched Momo when he's in his dragon form, she can then produce, his type of dragon form. Which I know look exactly like Kaido except for pink now that he's all grown up, but would she be able to do that? Would she be able to like touch speed, and that qualifies as like, oh, you touched a horse? Touch, some of the others, that, were like at the prison, or different things like that, like touch some of the other, the other artificial Zoan users, the smile users, and be able to like manifest those animal traits as well. I don't quite know if I should, put that there because like Tama's devil fruit, her dongos obviously apply. The person that ate them wouldn't be affected by them because they're not really an animal. Like if the user of this devil fruit, the feature fruit ate like one of Tama's dongos, it wouldn't do anything because they're a human taking on the features of an animal, but they're still human. Whereas if, like when the smile users eat the dongos, they then act accordingly to what Tama wants them to do. Their loyalty is to Tama. And, so by technicality, they are obviously a bit more animal than they are human, whereas they tried this on Ulti in page 1, and it didn't work. They're more human than they are animal. So, I guess maybe the devil fruit would apply to, like, the feature no mi, like, they could touch a bunch of the different, gifters and such like that, the different, smile users, and, like, touch them and, like, copy their animal abilities. Although probably to a much better extent, because it wouldn't manifest with like, oh, I have a gorilla head in the middle of my chest now. I don't know why. But, that would be like I don't know. That would be like I don't know exactly where to put that for like a hard limit. But, video ended up being a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I went into a fair amount of like detail in regard to like what you can manifest and how you can work things together and stuff like that. So that's the end of this video. I do have at least 2 other devil fruit videos I'm going to do. One is about the chocolate no mi, just because, chocolate and Halloween, why wouldn't I talk about that? And there's another one that I'm going to do that is going to kind of go along with the Dia de Muertos stuff, which I'm not going to tell you about yet, but that'll be a little bit later. So, yeah. I also have, like, the other Halloween movies that I'll be doing as well. So that's what I have for that. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a nice rest of your day. And flower. Bye. I might not understand your grief, your rage, everything that led you here. But I know all about solid bonds. And my friends don't use each other, because friends don't eat friends.